Okay, so obviously everyone who tried to get to Uman this year is very brokenhearted, and and for good reason. We all have been learning Rabbi Nachman's teachings now for a year, for a couple of years, and a few years, maybe more than that, and we've invested a lot into this, and everyone got up the courage to buy a ticket, to do everything they can to go. And, I think that there was a lot of tension. There was a lot of high energy efforts. And, but I think that there was a certain point towards the end that everyone forgot about themselves and was trying to help everybody get to Uman for Rosh Hashanah, no matter what it took. And this was around the world. People from Yerushalayim, people from Israel, people from Uman, people from America. I was part of multiple groups. Everyone was just trying to help everybody get the job done with no sense of self. And this is called the Keter. This is the highest level. This is the level of the soul, which is called Yechidah. This level of the soul called Yechidah is the same soul for everybody. That when everybody is putting in whatever they can in complete Mesir Nefesh for all of us, and we're all doing that together, that's called the Jewish people with one man, with one heart at Har Sinai, being able to receive the Torah. And still with all that, we were not able to get in. And not just us. There's 3,000 people there. I can't imagine how many people tried to get to Uman this year. Okay? Why do I think that happened? With everything Rabbi Nachman says, and we spent every day praying in the field. I was there every day, Mike was there every day, Benny was there every day, Michael, everyone, Abraham, everyone was there praying for themselves and for everybody else. So how can it be that Hashem does not let us in? So I think like this. Moshe Rabbeinu prayed 515 times to get into Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Nachman says that the Tzaddik Emet is the land of Israel. There is no difference. Just like the land of Israel is the place where there's a God, and when you're not there, it's like there's not a God. So too, where is the revelation of Hashem in the world? It's in the real tzaddikim. And he explains in there, later in Likutey Moharan, that the land of Israel is the place of complete humility. And because of that, everything grows there. That's why, where should you be giving your tzedakah to? To the tzaddik. Because by giving it to the tzaddik, you're giving it to fertile land. This is the land of Israel. This is the place of Emunah. This is the tzaddik emet. So we were all really, even though we were all praying to get to Rabbi Nachman, we were really all praying to go travel to the land of Israel. And we prayed over and over and over and over. Just like Moshe. Moshe did not get in. How could Moshe not get in? So they explain like this. If Moshe Rabbeinu would have got to Eretz Yisrael, then he would have become the Mashiach. The redemption would have started. They would have built the Beit HaMikdash. And then ultimately the Jewish people were not even holding in a place to be in part of that experience. And as a result of that, they would have done certain things that Hashem understood. And then it would have been the same situation as it was, that it was either the building or the people. Except anything that Moshe builds is never destroyed. Meaning it wouldn't have been the building, it wouldn't have been the Beit HaMikdash that would have been destroyed. It would have been us. And Hashem knew that the whole reason Moshe wanted to take the Jewish people into the land of Israel was for the Jewish people, to have Geula. So what did Hashem understand? That Moshe is praying to get to the land of Israel, but what he really wants is redemption for his people. And Hashem saw that in the future, Moshe is going to build that Beit HaMikdash. The Jewish people were not going to be in a place to have the Beit HaMikdash, and then there was going to be a choice between the Jews or the Beit HaMikdash. What ended up happening? Moshe didn't take us in. Yehoshua took us in. And then we built the Beit HaMikdash. And then what happened when the Jewish people were not holding in a place to have such a revelation of godliness in the world? Hashem destroyed the Beit HaMikdash instead. But whenever Moshe does anything, it cannot be destroyed. Even the things that he built for the Mishkan, there's a Masoret in Chazal that it's still there, buried under where the Beit HaMikdash is. That nothing he ever made was destroyed. So that would have defeated the whole purpose of Moshe's prayers. But again, we have the question, I don't understand, how does Moshe not get his prayer answered? Period. And the answer is it is answered. Just not then. That Moshe was the first redeemer, and Moshe is going to be the final redeemer, and Moshe is going to take the Jewish people into the land of Israel, but this time it's going to achieve the effect of the whole reason he prayed to begin with to take them in. Was Geula Olam Haba forever. I have a very, very strong feeling that if we would have made it to Uman this year for Rosh Hashanah, the Geula would have started. And I have a very, very strong feeling that there's a lot of people who don't know at all what that means, and they're not ready for that. And for us, that we care so much about Klal Yisrael, that it's not just about us, that we want everyone back. I don't know about you, but for sure me, that I'm praying for redemption for the Jewish people, that every single Jew should come back and to experience the light of Hashem. Not one Jew left behind. And at the same time, I'm praying for Geula. When Pesach came in, everybody agreed, Mashiach is here. Okay, and you've heard this many times before, but there was like an incredible consensus among everybody, Mashiach is here. I saw one thing from a very big Mekubal in Eretz Yisrael. He said 100,000,000,000% Mashiach is here at Pesach. And if for some reason he's not, there's only one reason why. Because there are certain few very great souls that are existing in the world today who are praying very dearly that Hashem should not bring the Mashiach until the whole Jewish people do tshuva, so nobody gets left behind. That's the goal. Now, if it's about you, it's okay. But if it's about Klal Yisrael, which we know that is what it's about, then if Mashiach comes right now, that's 80%, that's 4/5. That has no connection at all, and you can't do anything anymore because you have no free will after that.
Isn't what happened in Egypt?
Yeah.
But they said it's going to happen the same way with the majority of the people are not going to be.
Maybe we can fix that.
The Lubavitcher Rebbe said that this is going to be different. That even though 4/5 were left behind in Egypt, there is going to be nobody left behind when the Mashiach comes.
Really?
I heard
You know what I told you about the Sarah and the Bender? You said.
Okay.
So no Jew will be left behind, you're telling me?
No Jew left behind. I pray every day, I cry to Hashem every day, not one Jew left behind. That if George W. Bush can say this for Americans, that no Jewish kid should be left behind in the ridiculous education system we have here in America, and he said it with his whole heart and soul, and everybody got on board, no child left behind. How can the Jewish people let one Jew behind? How can we do that? We can't do that. We are all one. It's like a person, he thinks to himself, like you don't even realize you're just like this part of your finger on the Jewish people. And you're saying, I want to make it, I'm going to get there, I'm going to get there. And you're not praying for this guy to get there. Because you don't care, because you just care about yourself. What's going to happen when you get there and you're this part, but you need this part to have this part? We're all one. You can't not pray for everybody to get there. It doesn't make any sense. We're missing parts of the body. We're missing parts of our soul. The concept of Yisrael is one collective soul called Yisrael. And every Jew is a part of that soul. That's called Yisrael. That is Adam.
You know, you said that all our prayers to go to the tzaddik is to have Geula and to go to Eretz Yisrael, because the tzaddik is Eretz Yisrael. So all these prayers, and still now, you know, people are still trying to
100%.
But what is it? Because of redemption. I saw brought down in the books, sometimes somebody big or somebody gets sick and everybody prays for him. And then he passes away. So where did all these prayers go? They went in vain? Where did they go? So I saw it brought down those different things, but one of the things, so I prayed for somebody to be alive, and he passed away. So God forbid if I'm in a situation that I get hurt, and Hatzalah's not there yet. So like something happened to me on Thursday. So Hashem uses, it says, Dimotai sima berodecha, put my tears in your flask. Hashem takes these prayers and uses for the person himself to salvage him, or somebody in his family, or some other Jew. All these prayers we did to get Geula, to get the Eretz Yisrael to the Tzaddik, are pushing the complete redemption of Am Yisrael to be much faster. And there's a Kabbalah from one of the greatest Bersevet Tzaddikim who was, it's not like he was, some believed in him and some not. He has straight Mesorah from Rav Nachman, that on the last year before Mashiach comes, he said, Uman is going to be closed for Rosh Hashanah, means there's not going to be people. We understand now there's going to be less people, but the effect, the big effect that Uman has, Rosh Hashanah, it's not going to be there. So that's a good, very good sign for redemption, especially for all the prayers and the efforts that we put.
Nothing is in vain. We achieved unbelievable things, and it was really one of the highlights, I think, the highlight of Sion so far, that 10 guys, mamish, with all their heart and soul pushed and applied. Mamish, you love Hashem with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, meaning with all your money. Everyone did everything they could. And the people who went on the plane yesterday, they all got sent back. Nobody is allowed in Uman now. Okay? We did everything.
They sent even people back.
Even the people who bought all like their documents and everything.
But the people that are there, they also sent away?
And no, anyone who was a Ukrainian citizen who was not a Ukrainian citizen who arrived in the airplane yesterday or this morning, the guards all came on the plane before they got off the plane and told them, who is a Ukrainian citizen? Show us your Ukrainian citizenship. Whoever was off, and they could stay, and obviously the majority of them were not Ukrainian citizens, and they all got sent back home. So nobody's getting into Uman now.
How about you still going?
Amen.
Amen.
I
Razat
have
Hashem.
a shkafic question. Is
Yeah,
that
take it.
called Chil Shah?
No, we're all canceled.
Why?
He's supposed to go
I don't
today,
know,
supposed to
I'm
go
asking
tomorrow.
because, I mean, despite whatever's going on right now, people are still forcing the issue, quote unquote.
Everyone on their own has to look inside of themselves and ask them what is the point in which I have tried my hardest, and Hashem says no. Everyone to their own. There's many different ways to read Rabbeinu's Torah and to come out with different conclusions about what he would want you to do in every situation. I last night gave you my conclusion based on my understanding and the ruach that Hashem placed inside of me. Bezrat Hashem, I hope I advise correctly, and that's it. The person who literally is sitting outside, he's right. The person who stayed, he's right. Everyone has what to rely on. Okay, so listen to what he says now. There's a pasuk. It says that the king's anger is a malach of mavet. It's a messenger of death, but a wise man can pacify it. Does everybody know what to pacify means? To calm it down, to reduce it, to mitigate it, to minimize it. Like a baby, she's crying, and then you put the pacifier in, and it mitigates the crying. The tears go away, and it actually becomes a soothing experience for the baby. It's a very good example. So now he says, "V'zeh perush." This is the example. This is the explanation of this pasuk. Chamat melech ma'achem mavet. Ki chamato shel Kadosh Baruch Hu bishvil hamalchut sheishpil al yedei avanotav.
Which letter in the Torah? Right?
This is Likutey Moharan, Torah Dalet, section Zion. Okay? Ki, why? Because the anger of Hashem, why? Where does Hashem get angry from? What's the reason? It says in the Gemara, there's one reason for Hashem's anger that exists in the world, why he's not happy, so to speak, kivyachol. And the reason is because of avodah zarah. Okay? Meaning people believe in people, places, and things instead of believing in Hashem.
So then that means Hashem's always angry.
That's so to speak, kivyachol. Okay? So now, what is that called? That's called the malhot is in exile. The malhot is in exile, right? This is what we've been learning. So why is the malhot in exile? What's the cause of we believe in peoples and places and things? It comes from avon. It comes from avera. It comes from the avera that is in the bones. That through the avera that are done, they then nullify your ability to believe only in Hashem, and automatically you start to believe in people, places, and things. Okay? V'ish hacham yichap reina. But a wise man, he pacifies it. Okay? Now listen to what he says. Hayenu b'chinat talmid chacham. However, there's an aspect of a talmid chacham. B'chinat Moshe. The concept of Moshe Rabbeinu. Who's that? The tzaddik. What does it mean he's talmid chacham? We said before.
Whatever you said, the Torah, Chiddush, or whatever, you say Moshe, you said well.
Right? And what did we say that the essence of Moshe Rabbeinu is and the essence of the talmid chacham is? It's yes, but where is he getting his Torah from? From
himself like Shirayim.
From his complete humility.
Right.
From his nothingness.
Leftovers.
So he's saying that like this, why is the wise man able to pacify the issue? Meaning, why is he able to take a person who he mamish has so many errors, and even though he's done tshuva, they're still inside of him, so to speak, and now he cannot get to the point that he only believes in Hashem. Why is Moshe able to take care of that? Because he is the wise man, and because he's the wise man, he's able to pacify the situation. He's able to take that person's malhot out of exile. How is he able to take that person's emunah out of exile and people, places, and things and to bring it back to Hashem? Because he himself has reached a state of nothingness.
Wow, this is a
Nothingness.
very deep
Nothingness, no questions yet. Kamoshe katuv. Like the pasuk says, ve'over al pesha lisherit. Like we say, that Hashem forgives the pesha, which is, I did a avera, no, on purpose.
Transgression.
Right? It was on purpose. So how can he do something that's on purpose? You say, I know Hashem, you don't want me to, and I'm doing it anyway, Davka. How does he do? I say, it's okay. The sherit. It says to the remnants. So what does the Gemara in Masechet Rosh Hashanah say? Who are these remnants? Lemi shemesim atzmo kisharim. To those who consider and have made themselves like nothing. That's what a remnant is. What's a remnant? It's what's barely left after everything has been destroyed.
like sediments.
Like sediments, right? So he's saying that what does it mean over al pesha? We're going to take away the pesha to those who have made themselves like nothing. Meaning, why is it that Moshe Rabbeinu, the tzaddik emet, the talmid chacham, is able to nullify all of the averot when you come to do vidui devarim in front of him? The answer is because he is like nothing.
He is the concept of Aretz.
He's the concept of nothingness. And because he is nothing, he's able to then take your something and turn it into nothing. Nimsa, consequently, k'sheba lifnei talmid chacham, when you come before a talmid chacham, umotzei kol tzerofav lifnei hatalmid chacham, and you express all of the things that you did, Mike.
Listen.
When you express all of the things that you did in front of him, those are all negative letter combinations inside of you. And you're saying them before the Talmid Chacham. And the Talmid Chacham, hu b'chinat Moshe, he's Moshe, shemesim atzmo kesharim, he made himself like nothing. Kamoshe katuv, like the pasuk says, v'ish Moshe nav ma'od, that Hashem was very humble. And what does Rashi say? It means that that Moshe was very humble. And what does it mean that Moshe was very humble? Mike,
Listen.
just come off your phone.
I'm not on my phone.
Oh, move away. Look at me.
I'm listening.
No, you need to look.
That he reached the level of complete.
What does Rashi say that it means on that pasuk? What does Rashi say that the pshat is? The simple explanation is he was anav me'od. He was very humble.
Savlan, what?
Yeah?
I know.
That he was modest.
Humble.
Yeah? And that he was tolerant. He was tolerant of suffering. That the Jewish people would scream at him, would yell at him, would curse at him, would threaten him, all of these things, and he took all of it. And he continued to try and help those people.
But he didn't make it his own problem.
He didn't take it offensive.
And that's besides the point. There's some
He
people,
wasn't defensive like we
some
all are.
people
right
who
now.
try to help people and they make their problems, like someone has an issue and I'm trying to help him, I make his problem my problem, and therefore I can't function because of that.
So,
Understand?
So you helped the situation.
no, so he was very functional,
Right, that's what I'm
but the way he was able to be so functional was because it was not about him at all.
Right.
Because he was able to be long-suffering, but at the state of nothingness. If you try and be long-suffering when it is about you, you
Will suffer.
will suffer the worst suffering. And this is the reason why therapists and social workers are the ones who need the most therapy. Because they themselves are not necessarily holding on to spirituality. They don't know about the concept of nothingness. They come with their somethingness to try and help other broken people, and even though they have good intentions, mamish, they are the most amazing people in the world. At the same time, they're coming with their broken somethingness to help somebody else's broken somethingness. And what do they need? They need to get help also. That's why every therapist is a therapist. Yeah? Okay. So, but Moshe, there was nothing of himself. It was Hashem inside of him, and that was it. And any Jew who completely nullifies himself is able to experience that realization, because there's a Moshe inside of all of us. But the only way to experience that Moshe, that Mashiach, that Tzaddik Emet inside of you, that's able to literally nullify all negativity in the world, comes from becoming like nothing. To nullify your ego completely. Okay, 1 second. Now, the Zohar says, in fact, Moshe is found in the true leaders of every generation. There's a Bechina of Moshe that's in the true leaders of every generation. That they are the concept of Moshe of that generation. Even further, there's a pasuk. So I want to tell you that when I had my acid trip, okay?
Well, you got everyone's
Yeah,
attention
when
just
I
now.
come off everybody should come off your
doing
phone.
it's Likutey Moharan.
Ah, okay.
Shit.
So when you are in general, you should have a book though. I prefer it. No, in the future, if everyone can get the book and not be on their phones, I think it would be really good for you. Yes. So when I was at the festival in Atlantic City,
Yeah.
and I was hearing multiple bands surrounding me on all sides, and then you had like crazy trippy rides and Ferris wheels and a bunch of bizarre people all in one space, and some people are blazed and some people are drunk, and then I had my first experience with LSD. So what ended up happening on that trip? Well, I should speak about this all the time. As soon as I start to
Can you
speak.
please
Everybody-
keep that mouth shut, like-
Okay,
Rabbi, is
That was
recorded?
nice.
this is
Yeah,
recorded.
can you-
It's
one
good.
second, okay.
Okay, listen. When I had my first experience with LSD, with acid, okay, I was at a concert, and I was. Please put your phones on vibrate, or silent, or off for your own sake. I promise you, you're never gonna function in your lives if you're like this. I'm
Throw
just
them down
telling
the
you.
toilet.
Okay, we gotta hear this, come on.
Okay. When I was in Atlantic City and I was at a concert festival and I had music bands playing all around me, along with rides and Ferris wheels, and everybody was on different types of drug paraphernalia, somebody came over to me and showed me something like this with a smiley face on it and said to me, "Do you want this?" And I looked at my friend and I said, "Let's do it." And we did.
What was it?
This was called LSD. Okay?
Some crazy stuff.
Now, my friend, like most people who are on these types of trips, it just enhances what's going on around them. However, I did not have that experience. I literally left this planet and went to a completely different spiritual universe. And Hashem had me experience everything from the beginning until the end of time.
What?
Yeah.
Why is
So you
that?
tell me it was a positive?
1 second.
So you had a bad trip?
Let me finish.
You can explain. Crazy.
And I kept, when I finished this whole thing, and it was very intense, and I still remember some pieces of it, especially the end. So there was something that kept going through my head, and mind you, I don't know any Torah. I don't know what Shabbat is, I don't know what Tefillin is, nothing. This pasuk kept going through my head. I didn't know it was a pasuk, I didn't know what was will be, what was will be, what was will be. And I kept thinking it over and over and over, and I still haven't forgotten about it. And I told my friend who was with me, we have to go visit the land of Israel. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, we have to go. You have to trust me. We have to go to Israel. And I forced him to apply for birthright for us. We didn't get on, kind of like Uman. And then he thought I was going to drop it. Why? Because I'm an atheist who is telling everybody all the time that God doesn't exist, and the religion is a cult, and X, Y, and Z. And I'm the one who asked him to get on this trip. For some reason, I went to a weird place with this experience that he was not in that place and nobody else was in that place. And I said, no, we have to go. You have to sign us up again. And he signed us up again. We finally got on. And everybody knows the rest of that story. Okay? What was will be. What was will be. Now, I didn't realize until years later this is an explicit pasuk in the Torah of Shlomo Melech in Kohelet. And the pasuk is, Ma shaya hu shiyeh. What was will be. Now listen to what Tikuni Zohar says on this pasuk. What are the Roshei Tevot of this pasuk? What are the first letters of this pasuk?
Moshe.
What was will be. It's Moshe. And this is the source for the Zohar and the Kabbalah saying that just like Moshe was the first redeemer, he's going to be the final redeemer.
So he's in the
What was will be. You guys have to separate. I feel like I'm like.
I'm talking to you. I was
Stop talking. No talking. No nothing. Separate a little bit. There's too much closeness right here.
6 feet.
6 feet.
DC.
So wait, so Moshe will be the...
Mashiach.
After Tchias HaMeitim, when everybody's going around.
So they explain in Chassidut and in Kabbalah that when Mashiach comes, it's going to be the body of David and the soul of Moshe. He's going to have to come from David. He's going to have to be the son of David, right? Why? Because he's the seed of David. So they explain he's going to look like David, he's going to sound like David, he's going to be charismatic like David, he's going to be able to draw everybody in like David. But what's inside of him
He's Moshe.
is Moshe Rabbeinu. And everything that he's teaching is really Moshe. His neshama is Moshe and his goof is David.
Maybe that's why it's called emotional.
Who took the LSD, you said?
You could do that with anything. And by prefacing with maybe, you can be safe. Like, even if it has nothing to do with it, you're good because you said maybe. Okay? So, Moshe, David. Good. Okay? Now, this is what he says. That when you say these negative letter combinations in front of Moshe Rabbeinu, the Talmid Chacham, the Tzaddik, then what happens? You made yourself like nothing in front of the person who's nothing. So you understand what's happening right now? What do you have to do to tell another human being the most catastrophic, horrifying things that you've done in your life?
Nothing.
You have to make yourself like nothing, because it's the most, gut-wrenching experience. Okay? Now, when you do that to a person who is already in a state of nothingness, what happens is that he takes the part of you that is broken and he brings it up to ayin, to keter, and he rectifies it and he sweetens the whole thing, and then you come down with a brand new malhot. You come down with a brand new amunah, not in people, places, and things, which is only the result of the averot. But now the averot are gone, they're wiped clean. Why? Because a wise man can pacify it. And who is the wise man? Moshe, the one who has made himself like nothing. And where does wisdom come from? So the pasuk says, "V'chochma ma'ayin timatzeh," that chochma comes from nothingness. What does this mean in terms of Kabbalah? Nothingness is a code word for keter. And obviously chochma is chochma. So keter is the highest revelation of godliness. That highest revelation is called nothingness. Where does revelation of godliness come from? It comes from nothingness. Who is able to tap into that experience of the revelation of Hashem's light that comes from nothingness? Only the person who makes himself like nothing. And who is the only person in history to be able to do it at such a level that he attained complete nothingness? That's Moshe. So when you come over to him and you bring all of your stuff, you, so to speak, have made yourself like nothing with the person who's holding by nothing. And through this, you are able to completely nullify all of the Avera, turn them into mitzvot, and now your emunah is even stronger than if you never did any of those things.
So can we go to the Rabbi here?
1 second.
So also when you take out everything that you
One
have,
second. 1 second.
then you have nothing left.
Over there, yesh koach l'talmid chacham lechaper. And in this, there is the strength of the Talmud Chacham Techaper. Why is it that this works? Why is it that people are hell-bent on getting to Uman for Rosh Hashanah? Because the wise man, Mechaper, he is able to wipe clean all things that are dark. Why? Because he's in a state of nothingness. So now we understand why. Very good. Now, the Likutey, which is a commentary on Likutey Moharan, he says, and you'll notice something very interesting. What's the word for Avera? It comes from the root word
Aval.
Avan.
Avon, okay.
Avon. What's the root? What's the root?
Ein, Vav, Nun.
Good. Now let's just switch the letters. What do you get? Anav.
No.
So you see, even within the Avera, you have the key out. How does a person be able to flip the Avera into the Keter, to the highest revelation of godliness? Anav. I didn't do anything, I'm just reading from the book. Okay?
If we go to the Rabbi's grave, it's going to
1 second.
Can you repeat that again one more time, please?
Might as well, we're not in Oman.
1
No,
second.
we'll go. We'll talk
Everybody
about it at
take
the
it
end of
easy.
the shir. Don't worry. We have stuff to say. It's a
Okay.
Shulchan Aruch. Don't worry.
Okay. Vishvil zeh, and because of this, k'shehit palel al chet ha'egel amar, and because of this, Moshe an chet ha'egel, what did he say? Im tisa chatatan. If you would, please forgive their avera. Ve'im ayin mechanina, and if not, erase me, please, from your book. That Moshe Rabbeinu, even though he mamish was the greatest human being who ever lived, who he himself worked and toiled every day of his life to achieve the highest levels of spirituality and physicality, he was leading a group of people who mamish was not like that at all. And they were giving him hell every single day, that he took them out of Egypt, and then they gave him even more hell when they got to the Midbar. And they kept complaining to him and screaming to him, why did you destroy our lives? We were so happy in Mitzrayim. We were so happy in the secular world. Or at least there I was partying and I was drinking and I was blazing and at least I had something. Now I'm not doing that, but I also have none of the benefits of being spiritual. I'm literally in limbo. I'm just suffering. You're killing me. And Moshe's just every day going back to Hashem crying, Hashem, why did you tell me to come save these people? And at the moment that Mamish, they make the biggest error in history, that they were, in the terms of the Kabbalah and the Gemara, they reached the state of Adam Rishon before the Chet, at the Chet Egel. It was going to be Geula right then and there. Redemption right then and there. Right before the Chet. And because they couldn't wait one more second, so as a result of that, they did the worst collective of error that ever was done. And now as a result of that, the Gemara says in every generation, our issues and suffering comes from that original of error. Yeah, that chet. So the question is, I don't understand. Moshe Rabbeinu is the tzaddik. Rabbi Nachman saying that he's able to wipe it away clean. Why should we be dealing with any of the effects? So comes the commentaries to explain there's one thing that they didn't do. They didn't do vidui devarim in front of Moshe. So there's still remnants left over. And he says, if you would forgive them or erase me completely. How could he ever get to the point that he says erase me completely? Because there's no him. It is impossible for a person not to feel some type of pride. When somebody speaks praise about him, he says it is impossible that someone's going to say, you have to understand this guy Mike is mamish a tzaddik. Rabbi Nachman says, this person, it's impossible for him not to feel some sense of pride.
Wow, that's a bug out.
Kol sheken, all the more so, kishemelech gadol, when a great king, mishabeach umfa'er et adam, He is just lauding and glorifying and praising. Can you imagine you have Mamish, the king of the whole country, and he stops everything that's going on. He takes you from the crowd. He's like, everybody here, you have to understand, this person, Mamish, is the greatest person in our generation. He's going on. All the more so when you hear a great king talking about you. Azai bavadai mina nimna. Then, certainly, bavadai, it's impossible that he is not removed, shalo yavo lo ezegalut. He doesn't feel some type of feeling. He's not feeling some type of way from this. Everyone is going to feel some type of way for this. Aval, however, tzarich lezeh. He needs in this bitul kol hargashotav v'chamriotav. He needs to nullify all of these feelings and not be moved by any of these feelings of importance. Azay yachol adam, and then that person, lishmoa shivcho, is able to hear praise, v'lo yavolo shum gadlut, and he's able to not come to any type of pride.
I lost you there.
Okay.
Yeah, you said it was impossible for him to not feel some type
Right.
of way, but now you're saying that there is a way for him.
Yes. So he's saying it's impossible where a human being is naturally holding not to feel some type of way.
Right.
So what should he do? If he takes those feelings of self-importance and he negates all of his, he says, he then negates all of his human emotions and all of his physicality.
What the heck are you talking about? How is that possible?
Moshe.
So basically, you have to give that to Moshe.
No, we're talking right now about Moshe. 1 second. Wait, let's get to the end. This whole thing is about Moshe. Okay? V'lo yavo lo shum gadlut. Kamon Moshe Rabbeinu, like Moshe Rabbeinu. Shera'a katuv b'Torah. That he saw it written in the Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu himself saw it written in the Torah. V'daber Hashem al Moshe. Hashem spoke to Moshe. Hashem spoke, it doesn't say he's speaking to anybody else. Hashem is constantly speaking to Moshe, and Moshe is seeing it over and over and over again in the Torah. V'yomer Hashem al Moshe, v'Yisrael korim b'chol yom b'Torah shivchol Shem Moshe. And every single day, the Jewish people say in the zchut of Moshe Rabbeinu, we have Hashem in our lives. We have the Torah. V'hu ba'atzmo misaper lahem shevacho. And Moshe Rabbeinu is hearing all of this every single day in Shemayim. He's hearing his praise, that the only reason that there's a revelation of godliness in the world is because of him. V'lo haya leMoshe shum itparut v'gadlu mezeh. He doesn't feel anything from this. Moshe katuv, like the pasuk says, Va'ish Moshe nav ma'od. Ubavadai al yadei avanotav. And Vadai, specifically through his humility, Haya koch b'yad Moshe lechaper avon ha'egel. He is able to machaper the chet ha'egel. He was able to nullify it, and then we got a mishkan instead, which is higher than if we never had the avera to begin with. So the fact that the Jewish people have made so many errors is not a problem in and of itself. It's only a problem if it ends like that. But if you take those errors and you bring them to Moshe Rabbeinu, then it's better than if you never did it. And you get a mishkan out of it. And the mishkan is the Beit HaMikdash, and the Beit HaMikdash is the revelation of godliness in the world. And the Zohar says the whole world is created so that Hashem can have a dwelling place below in this world, meaning the Beit HaMikdash. So the whole world is created for the Beit HaMikdash. But there's no Beit HaMikdash without Chet HaEgel.
So throughout our lives, we have an aspect called Chet HaEgel, as well as an aspect